we've got to stop acting like this is Tom Crean's first Indiana team. This is.
You knew I was going to bring that up today. At one point.
It's just it's stunning. You've got a former 5-star recruit. You've got a bunch of top 100 4-star kids on this team. At what point is it a combination of they're not motivated, the effort isn't there? Yes, you can say all those things, and I have pointed that out every single opportunity given to me. But at what point do you also say who's preparing them and who's getting them ready for these games? Because they don't look like they know what they're doing. They don't look like there is a plan that they need to be executing. And quite frankly, everybody looks lost. It's not just players. Everybody looks lost. And I don't see how you can go into a press conference after a game and you're only talking about effort. And it's like your team just got blown out by 26, like after losing the previous 3 games by a lot of points. I have said this a lot, Jack, and I know I'm talking a lot here. I've said it a lot, and I do think that this is abundantly fair to say Kenny Payne deserves the opportunity to see if he can get this thing going. He deserves the opportunity. He was hired. You can't jump ship so quickly without giving somebody the opportunity to build what they believe they can build. But nothing from these first 7 games has given me any reason to think that there's a change coming at any point this season. I mean, shoot, they threw out that 2-3 zone briefly, and I was like, oh, there's a wrinkle. And then it's just like, there's nothing else.
They're pressing when they're down 30, and I'm seeing people say, why don't you do this all game? I was like,
yeah.
I mean, like, first, you can't when L. Ellis is really your only guard. you just can't do that. You're going to not literally, but you're going to kill L. Ellis if you tried to press 40 minutes a game with that. You just can't do it. You don't have the pieces to do that. But to me, the bigger thing is less about this year and how bad this year has been so far. 0-7. We know how bad it's been. And if you want to pick apart the coaching, I think it's more so the coaching in games against like Wright State and App State, to where you can point to things at the end of the game, not fouling when you had fouls to give when you're up 1 and giving up a buzzer beater, not calling a timeout after you have a jump ball in the Wright State game with 7.5 seconds left to kind of try to calm your team together. In the App State game, being down 1 and waiting 12, 13 seconds to foul. And then even when you hit a buzzer beater, hey, you got it off a half second too late, so it doesn't count. Maybe you shouldn't have let 12, 13 seconds go off the clock before fouling, and then letting another additional 10, 11 seconds go off the clock before attacking the bucket to try to get a basket at the end there. Just some thoughts here. I mean, those are very tangible things that you could say Kenny Payne did not do correctly, did not handle correctly. I think when you look at these last 4 games, I mean, even Cincinnati's a team that's not very good, but it was a 1-point game at halftime. No one really felt like they had a real chance to win that game. It's just they're outclassed. They're outclassed every time they take the court against teams that are anything but like a Wright State and Appalachian State. Anytime they play a high major team, they're going to be outclassed this year, other than maybe when they play Florida State, which they get them twice. Thankfully for them, they get them twice.
Speaking of teams off to brutal start. Well, Jack, I want to throw these numbers at you. Okay, I've been
but I want to say the bigger thing though that worries me, the recruiting. Kenny Payne was brought here to recruit, and you could take 0-7 and people wouldn't be happy with 0-7. But if they're 0-7 and they got a DJ Wagner or an Aaron Bradshaw or an AJ Johnson, I'm not even saying all 3 of them. Just one of those types of dudes, or an Isaiah Miranda. If you had someone to hang your hat on, like Indiana, again, 6-25 year wonder Tom Crean. They brought in a top 10 recruiting class the next year and brought in Cody Zeller the year after that.
Yep.
To where you can say, okay, those are pieces that you can build around. You had, even on that 6-25 team, you had a guy in Verdell Jones that you could say, this sucks, this team's terrible, but you had a piece in Verdell Jones that said, okay, that could be a guy that could be a part of the solution later. Matt Ross was, a great 3-point shooter, sharpshooter. That's the word I'm looking for. You'd say, okay, that's a guy that can play a role. Who on this team do we think is going to stick around long-term and feel like can play a major role? Kamari Lands, maybe.
There,
I mean,
there are,
Ellis is going to be out of
thinking about
eligibility. I mean,
Yeah,
Huntley
I was
Hatfield,
thinking
you don't
about
feel like he's going to be around for a long time, to where
Yeah.
you don't have anything that says, okay, Devin Reed, he's for sure going to be a player in 2 years, or Fabio Basili, he for sure looks like he can be a guy that's going to be really good in 2 years.
Mhm.
You don't have that on this year's roster, and you don't have the recruiting on the back end, and he's 0 for 1 in the transfer portal. I know I've given him a lot of patience on the transfer portal because of the IRP, NCAA, FBI stuff, but that excuse isn't there any longer. You have to go and hit a home run in the transfer portal this year, and there's no excuses if you don't. There's a lot of pressure for that now.
Yeah, it's putting a lot of eggs in one basket. I will say too, one guy I would say I think has a future at Louisville is Mike James. I think
Mike James would be one.
He hasn't been awesome.
He shows flashes. He shows flashes.
He plays hard, and that's the thing that for me is different about and I'll never forget that Indiana year with Tom Crean. Because I was in college at the time, and I just remember watching a lot of their games because they were on. I mean, it's Indiana's Big Ten basketball; they were on a lot, and I just remember thinking like they always played really hard, and they played their butts off, and they were going to get smoked by most teams, and they did, but they played hard. And I watched this Louisville team, and I don't get the sense that they're playing very hard. And that to me is a real problem. Like I know we've talked about it over and over again. Every time I see it, it just rekindles this curiosity of what is going on, that you can't get your team to go after it on the offensive glass, to go get some loose balls. I mean, they are getting bullied.
And that was supposed to be the one given. That was supposed to be. I mean, we sat here over the summer and we're like, well, they don't have enough guards. There's not a lot of talent, but Kenny will get them to play hard, and you'll win some games just by playing hard. We haven't even seen that.
No.
Other than some few isolated spurts, we haven't seen them do that for a full game yet this year.
Yeah.
And that's inexcusable.
Yeah.